First of all, a big hello to whoever's watching this. Today we're going to be using SAP Lumira to do some data visualization on the topic of domestic violence in Australia, looking beyond the numbers. It is a topic of big concern in Australia. In fact, in a recent public address by the Australian Prime Minister, he expressed his concern regarding the lack of sufficient research into this topic. Therefore, we decided to gather some crime statistics published by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and we wanted to share our findings with you guys. First of all, we decided to do a state-wise breakdown of all the recorded incidents where it was clearly evident that domestic violence is prevalent across all Australian states and territories. The most notorious one is clearly New South Wales. However, what also needs to be noted that in this data, the physical assault records for the two states of Victoria and Queensland were not published, which might make the figures a tad bit misleading. However, it is clear that domestic violence is prevalent throughout the country. Next, we decided to do a gender-wise breakdown of all the recorded incidents. While you will notice that there is a small fraction of recorded incidents where the gender of the victim is unspecified, clearly the number of female victims are overwhelmingly larger than the number of male victims, with a ratio of nearly 3 to 1. Therefore, this allowed us to narrow down our focus on the majority of victim group, which is females in Australia. To reassure that this was the right direction to go, we decided to classify all the recorded incidents into 3 broad attack types, namely physical assault, kidnapping and abduction, and sexual assault. Here, once again, we compared the number of males and female victims and found out that in each type of assault, the number of female victims are clearly much larger than the male victims, and at the same time, it was also clear that kidnapping and abduction form a very tiny fraction of the total number of incidents. Therefore, we would focus our research here on mostly sexual and physical assaults. The next thing we decided to do was do a age-wise breakdown of all the recorded incidents where, when it comes to physical assault, there was a clear winner, so as to say. We can see throughout all the states and territories, the age group of 25 to 34 had the highest number of incidents. Clearly, this is the highest target group for physical assaults in Australia. And then we decided to do a research on the age groups when it comes to sexual assaults. Here there's an interesting variance from the previous graph, where there was only one clear age group, which was 25 to 34, which is also of a high count in this graph as well. However, interesting to note is that when it comes to sexual assault, younger age groups are also equally targeted, especially in the state of New South Wales, where the numbers are alarmingly higher than any other state. Therefore, when you combine the two together and then look at an overall record when it comes to the most vulnerable age groups, considering all of the domestic violence incidents in Australia, here in this heat map, it is clear that the hottest zones, or in other words, the most targeted age groups, are 10 to 14 and 15 to 19. Therefore, the youngest. The next thing that we decided to focus on was to ascertain the relationships between offenders and victims, so as to determine which persons in women's lives are most likely to perform an act of domestic violence. Please note, in this graph, the records for Victoria were not available. However, considering the records from all of the states, there are some clear winners. And to just clarify the highest recorded persons, we filtered the results and ranked the top 3 to find the following infograph. Here, once filtered and ranked, the top 3 perpetrators turned out to be intimate partners, non-intimate partners, and followed by other family members, as in ones who are not parents. Therefore, women in Australia are most vulnerable to face an attack from these 3 categories of persons in their lives. The last thing that we decided to explore was the location of incidents, so as to determine where women were most likely to get attacked. Here, the clear majority of attacks happened in residential areas, which allowed us to draw a conclusion that home is where the threat is, unfortunately, for the majority of women in Australia. We hope our video has been useful and has been able to offer some insight into the issue of domestic violence in Australia. We hope this was informative. Thank you for your time.